Hey guys, this is Evan,
And this is Myles.
and we are the collective known as the Color Colloquium. And we are here pretty much to just discuss everyday topics with you guys and try to do it from an astute point of view. So, first thing that I want to talk about, kind of just jumping into it here, is James Baldwin. I just kind of want to highlight an African American individual that people may have heard of, but may not have known how much they may have meant to the community. So, James Baldwin, my favorite author. I haven't read a ton of books to have to really know who could be my favorite, but this individual here has definitely risen to the top of the list out of all of the ones that I have read. Myles, I mean, I'm not sure how much you've known about him before I actually started.
All right. So when it comes down to James Baldwin, I have to say I'm a bad gay. I'm a bad black gay, especially, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, because I knew slightly who he was, but due to me being a part of, the mainstream black culture, he was an openly gay man. You know how, we love ourselves some religion. And so with him being that, it's like in my household, I've seen his face, I may have heard his name, but nobody really took it to the point of saying, hey, this is a man that spoke about these type of issues and things, and you should be familiar with what it is that he's said or what he's done. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately, even in my adult age, I kind of let that kind of hey, I know who he is. I knew that he wrote books, and that is about where the buck stopped, but I didn't kind of go beyond that. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I'm as you're talking about how you kind of first came into contact with who he was, I'm trying to really think about when I first even heard of him. I want to say it may became at least 7 or 8 years ago. I'm not going to pretend like I knew who he was my whole life, but once I did start to get a glimpse of who he was, I want to say maybe around on Twitter, I just started to know who he was by following certain people. He kind of came into my life that way. But again, his name's James Baldwin. I just Googled it earlier today. He was born in 1924, which is definitely a long time ago. So he he grew up in Harlem in the 1930s, and he had I guess a very unique perspective with him being, I guess, I guess first generation New Yorker with his family, his parents living in the South. But the thing that I love the most about his writing is the way he can say so few words and make you understand things that you might have been hearing about your whole life, and you'll understand it in a deeper way than you have ever even begun to think about it in the past. And he can really go into depth on certain subjects that you've been paying attention to forever, but he'll say something in a way that you just really never thought of, and it will make you almost come to had this come to Jesus moment, if you will, and just I guess just have a better understanding about everything. I mean, I can go along and I can give you a million reasons why I genuinely do love this man, but I mean, a few of his books are, I think maybe the one of his most famous books was Giovanni's Room. I personally haven't read that book yet myself, but it's one of his most popular. I just Googled earlier as well. He's in 1999, there was a list compiled of the 100 most prominent gay literature, and that was number 2 on the entire list of 100. So I mean, that right there is saying something in itself. He's written multiple books. The only one that I've read personally is The Fire Next Time. I implore anybody within earshot to read that book. Not just any African American, not just any gay individual. I want everybody. I feel everyone, especially Americans, should read that book. But another book that he does have that he did write is called If Beale Street Could Talk. It's a title that many people might be familiar with this, especially as a time right now. Myles, I'm sure, can jump in more at this point.
So I'm gonna go ahead and take the mic for 2 seconds. First of all, I have yet to read a James Baldwin book, and to be quite honest with you, and to be fair to all authors, so nobody out there get upset with me and be cross with me, I barely read. I will listen. I will listen to a book and almost barely get hold of that. I've been listening to 48 Laws of Power for probably about almost a year now. So,
that book.
Well, you know what? No, I take that back. I've actually gotten through it once, and then I've been trying to go through the process of doing round 2. And so, just to kind of like the first time I got through it, this time I'm trying to get to a point to where I'm actually trying to. But I'm definitely trying to get to a point to where I listen to it, comprehend it, get it, and it's obtained. So now.
Getting into like the movie in regards.
Yeah, I was about to say. So that leads me to this whole movie thing. So I watched If Beale Street Could Talk, and I have to say that I haven't read the book, so it's kind of tough. I don't know what to necessarily say. Oh shit! Like it was written in this form, and I felt the way that I felt. But in terms of all of that, like watching If Beale Street Could Talk, what I love about the direction and stuff of that sort is the fact that I felt that, like as an African American, regardless of the fact that it didn't necessarily, have anything to do with the, gay thing or nothing to that effect. Like, but I was able to relate, like, what I'm saying? Like this was a situation where a young woman, if you don't know anything, like there's a scene where she speaks to, her mom and has to tell her mom that she's pregnant. And the intensity of that scene and the way that it was, like I remember like hell, like I didn't have to have a conversation about telling my mom I was pregnant, but I damn sure had to tell my mom that I was gay, and that conversation was just as tense. And just like that whole feeling of, that shame and stuff of that sort, like I have to give it to my sister who held my head up and was like, hold up, like, no, like you still my brother and I love you. So like that whole intensity, it brought about a realness that I was definitely much so familiar with, in family. And I feel like that is something I haven't seen represented in the Hollywood black family. Not in a whole clunky country chicken way. And so I just really, really thought it was well written, and that it was very, very intense, and I felt that. So
right. And I mean, I did not read If Beale Street Could Talk, the book, but I could definitely in the narration, especially in the movie, I could tell that was James Baldwin. Like he pulled that straight from the book. That was something that those were his words, because there were certain phrases I can't paraphrase. I don't even want to paraphrase what they were, because I'm not James Baldwin, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to be him. But
it's okay if you want to be him. It's okay.
I do a little bit. But yeah, the fact that it took a long time, of course, but the fact that they adapted his his book into a movie, I think that is definitely a testament to how revered he was as a writer, because some of the greatest writers who are alive today still reference him in his work. They reference him, just how influential still some of the stuff that he wrote back in the 80s or the 70s or what have you is still relevant today. So that's really just why I wanted to kind of highlight him as an individual.
So, all right, so definitely, if you don't know anything about James Baldwin, you might want to go Google him. Go ahead and Google him, just like you're doing Cardi B and Beyonce right now, by what Rumi and Sir look like. All right, so moving on to the next. The one thing that I definitely admire about James Baldwin as well is the fact that his wokeness in terms of how he felt about things, so things that he was trying to make people aware of. And I know that we can all get into, of course, he was catering to, his people of color. But for the most part, people, and just bringing everybody aware of everything and seeing it through a different lens, and I appreciate that. So it leads me to things that we don't necessarily talk about, the things we still sweep under the rug, and that goes down into HIV rates and infections. I understand that this is one of those conversations where like, oh my gosh, it feels like wonky. Oh my God, this is 2019. Are we still talking about this? Are people still having anything? Yes to all of that. Yes, bitch, yes. Yes, people are still dying in 2019 from HIV related issues. The reason why I'm talking about it in such the way that I am is because we should not be talking about it in the sense that we are. The face of it has changed quite a little bit. I mean, of course, HIV affects anyone, so that doesn't change. But in terms of who is dealing with it, the hardest and the most, that has definitely changed. And to be quite honest, knowing what I know, been to look at, the growth and the patterns, it really hasn't changed. It just has only kind of grown in the spaces that it has, and there's been no change. We've seen all the signs. We've known that this is what has been going on. We just haven't addressed it. So with that being said, down the rabbit hole we go. So in terms of rates in the US, if we know anything about our minority populations, and I can just kind of like just throw a little focus on, African Americans. African Americans only make up about 13% of the US population. I want to say that the Latinx population make up roughly 24, 25, maybe 26% of the population, US. And then, we have our smaller bits, and then I don't know why I don't know this number off head, but let's just understand that, Caucasian Americans make up
about 47,
about the remaining amount of
50.
Okay, so cool. And we have like little others. So in terms of HIV infections, and that goes across of the total of those that's infected, African Americans, regardless to them being male or female, make up over 50% of those infected. Now rewind to what I said earlier about those individuals being 13% of the population. They make up a little over 50% of those that are infected.
That means just for everybody who needs a little more understanding, it's 100 people in a room. 13% of those people, 13 of those people are African American. 47 of those people are white people. I would say like 26 of them are Latinx people, and whatever the remaining number is, those are your other individuals. Of all 50% of the new HIV cases that's in that room, what are they, Myles?
African American.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, right? I just had to make that clear.
And so, the thing to recognize too is with the Latinx population, the trend is the same. There's growth in terms of the HIV infections within those populations. They're not seeming to become stable and or decreasing at all. So it brings back to the situation in the day of our Lord and Savior 2019. Why is that an issue? Why is that something that we are still dealing with? Why is it that with these two particular populations, there's no cease, there's what is going on? And that makes that bigger question. So let's go down the rabbit hole a bit. With me, I'm definitely look at what I feel is the root to all of such evils, and that goes back to the whole religious game. I know that as minority populations, we love our Jesus, whether he's white or baby Jesus, we love him. And so that's a great thing. But the thing about it is this. We seem to, as a people, continue to pick and choose what parts of baby Jesus stories we want to believe in. And I feel like that contributes to a lot of the, I want to say it's almost out just negligent at this point, in regards to how much of these situations that we want to pay attention to. And we close our eyes and, we cover our ears because it talks about things that, by quote, our religion won't allow us to participate in or anything of that sort because it make us, by quote, wicked or unclean. That is wonderful, but half of y'all wouldn't be grandparents. Some of y'all wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for somebody stepping out of somebody's wedlock or somebody having a child on going out and doing something they weren't supposed to be doing on prom night. Like, let's just put it in perspective. So we can't continue to, go through the mindset of thinking that maybe one offense is greater than the other. So yes, when it comes down to talking about HIV infections, we have to be faced with how these infections come about, and it's the truth of the matter. And that we must have to now understand too, that is none of our damn business. If what somebody does when they close their door in their sexual boom boom time is none of our business. Now, where things become our business is the fact that as a collective and as a people, we are seeing higher rates of individuals being infected, and this is happening not because just the only fact is that, oh, they're out having sex, oh, they're out injecting drugs and stuff of that sort, oh, they must then use a condom. Well, let's look at this. How many African American parents, or let's say just put it as, or how many parents are really having the birds and the bees combo? I think we are rusting on the abstinence, don't have sex until you are married conversation. But the truth is what is the definition of abstinence? I've asked kids over and over and over and over for years, as being an educator, hey, what is the definition of abstinence? And you wouldn't believe I had not one particular kid had the same answer. I heard not having sex until you got married, which of course that is the church push of it all. It's like, hey, that's practicing abstinence. But y'all are not mentioning the fact that, hey, look, that means not doing injection drugs. That means not doing anything that puts you at risk and harm. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's time that we start looking at the consequences of not talking about the issues, sitting and looking at how HIV infections occur, or how we assume that somebody got it, and judging them and putting them in a box for that reason when that has absolutely nothing to do with it. We are causing individuals to cut themselves off, not, communicate, no one should be scared to go and get tested. We have people scared to the point of they don't even want to know. If they are, they don't want to know. And if they do find out that they are, they rather not go through medication and waste away because they feel like their value to society is just that much. And I feel like that's something that when we start, this is a larger conversation, by the way, but if we start at least within that religious space, getting some of our leaders on board to say, hey, you know what, we need to change our narrative. We need to change our approach in the way that we are dealing with these people. We are a church, we are a hospital, we're here to help people. We're here to restore people. But to sit there and have someone come in and say, hey, look, I've slipped and I've fallen, and all we do is sit there and look at the type of offense that it was and be like, oh, you know what, well, I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? But here is, where we want to look at a gay man or look at him a certain way and hold him different than we do a heterosexual young 16-year-old woman who's walking in pregnant. Like, you can't do that. And so we have to change the way that we're looking at all of these things and treating these individuals, because it's only contributing to the bigger problem. And it's the fact that these rates are going up. People don't even have the information to make proper decisions because we're making them too scared to even have the conversation. And so really looking at all of these things and trying to do something that's more effective, because the whole absence is only not talking about a thing is not working anymore. and I'm off my list.
Yeah, I mean, but you were definitely making a lot of great points there. It's definitely the stigma that goes into the reason why these rates are going up, and they continue to go up, and they will continue to go up as long as people are, judging people for the way they might contract the virus, for just downright not talking about the virus. I mean, we can, of course, like you said, it's a bigger conversation. We can go into the relationship between the African American community and the medical system, but of course we won't do that right now. We'll wait. That's not even that. That's just a small symptom of the whole problem. But I guess that's all we really got for this segment here. I definitely appreciate you guys listening. Just to highlight, definitely appreciate Mr. James Baldwin, my favorite author. I guess now writer of an Oscar-winning movie. If you can add that to his resume posthumously as of tonight. But I don't know. Anything else, Myles, you want to add to that?
I just want to touch on the fact that on this beautiful, I think I'm dating this, but this is practice running away. Okay. So anyways, I just want to go ahead and put it out there for the culture that Cicely Tyson, with her every bit of being over 90 years old, is killing it.
94.
94? Mm-hmm. Like, and a little quick note, going back to James Baldwin, they would have been the same age.
Same exact age.
So yeah, James Baldwin would have been 94. So Cicely Tyson is tearing it up. She's being that queen, is that, he probably would have represented. Billy Porter was cute, but I don't think he would have embodied what, I think Cicely got it.
Well, yes, long live Miss Tyson. Rest in peace, Mr. Baldwin. And y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night, day, and wherever you're living.